Hello, I'm Keith Hart and welcome to the Through Strange Eyes deep dive video. Through Strange Eyes enables you to manipulate the geometry of your picture and gives you the interactive creative control over the final image that you need. If you haven't watched a concepts video yet, then you might want to watch that first. In this video I'm going to talk about some of the deeper features of Through Strange Eyes so you can get the most out of the program. First of all, I'm going to talk about the transform menu here. Just a reminder, this here is a transform stack and you can load and save them. So here we can do save transform, and by default it's going to give me my opening image name in the same directory with .transform as an extension. I say I can save them by the same extension. I can load them as well. I also have the opportunity to save them as the default transform, and that will save them over here in the directory where the program runs from, in this default directory within that, and those transforms will be opened as soon as the program's opened. And likewise, if I want to, I can do transform load default transform, and it pulls that transform out of the same directory and pulls it in. Okay, so let's have a look at some of the properties next. Again, similarly with the properties, you can save them. Again, by default, they get saved in the same directory, same file name with the .properties extension. You can save them as a default set of properties, and you can load the properties. But what are these things called properties? So let's open the Edit Properties window to start with. First of all, this tab allows you to control the output properties of your image. Currently this is set to 1000 by 1000. If I want to change that to maybe just 500 by 1000, 2 by 1, a very small image, if I just say OK to that, first thing that we notice is that this preview window here is actually then resized. This gives you a preview in the same aspect ratio as your final image. Let's just pop back to the properties. As well as choosing the various property sizes here, I can choose a custom size. Sorry, I can choose a standard size. Currently we've got things like A3, A4, portrait in. We can specify the DPIs as well for that. As I change these values here, you'll notice that the grayed out values here for the pixel size of the image will change correspondingly. At the bottom there's this section here which talks about oversampling. Normally it's set to 1. If you set it to 2, what it means is it's going to divide each pixel in the output image into a 2 by 2 square. It will then transform each of those squares all the way through this transform stack and find out what the value in the original image is, and it then will average those 4 results coming back. It gives you a much more stable way of actually getting the image. You've got lots of sharp edges. It prevents having like those jagged edges you can sometimes get. And you can set that to 2, you can set it to say 3, which divides each pixel into a 3 by 3 square, so you have 9 samples, or even 4, so you get 16 samples per square. Clearly when you start processing images, if you've got 16 samples per square, it's going to take 16 times as long to generate that image, which maybe on a 1000 by 1000 kind of size isn't too bad. If you're starting to generate images which are 10,000 by 10,000 because you're printing them up kind of A0 size, and you're starting to do an oversample of 4, you may find that it significantly extends the processing time that the program takes, but it will give you a better result. So you can choose the pros and cons of that yourself. Next I'm going to have a look at the preview and colour here. Okay, there are 3 preview windows we talk about. The mini preview size is this input into the transforms, currently set to 200. We have a small preview size here, currently set to 400. Both of those will actually be square. And then the large preview size here, set to 600. There is a 600 by 600 square, which is then cropped down so it's in the right aspect ratio for the output image. The next set of things we can change here are the graffiti colour lines. Hopefully you can see here we have a set of graffiti lines. There's a left and a right and a centre, yellow, green and red. If I just change these lines here, so maybe purple, turquoise and pick another colour, grey. Okay, let's just say OK to that. Find out that these lines here have changed to something which is even less visible, but never mind, you can choose it to contrast with the image that you're working on. There's an out of bounds colour here, which again you can choose what colour you want that to be, and that's used for things like the circle mask, or if any of your images ever get transformed and a pixel doesn't land on the target image, which it can well do, that's the colour that it gets filled in with. Finally, on the Advanced and Start tab over here, the first two options talk about whether the transforms and properties are going to be auto-loaded when you load the image. So if you load an image from a directory and there's a file with the same name but a .transform extension rather than .jpeg, and this is checked, it will automatically load that set of transforms with that image. Similarly, if there's a properties file in the same directory with the same name, .properties, and that's checked, it will load those properties. If you're working on an image and you maybe change these colours to be more suitable for your image, you've got an image stack here. When you load that image, those two sets, the transforms and properties, will load automatically. The next thing that's down here is about whether you want to use threading. Most computers these days will have multi-core processors in them. I'm running all these demos on an Intel i7 machine, which is a quad processor. Each of those quad cores is actually hyper-threaded as well. And so if I look on the Windows Task Manager, it looks like there's 8 cores. You can't drive all those cores to 100% utilization. On a true quad-core processor, through Strange Eyes will actually flatten it with this value of 4 here. On this particular box with the hyper-threading, if I set it up to 8, I can drive all of those 8 virtual threads to around about 70% capacity. So it just helps you scale up the processing of the image. And if you ever get a problem with anything, you shouldn't do, certainly report it on the forums, but take the use threads off and see if you still got the problem. So the next thing here, again coming down to the real nitty-gritty, the deep dive, there shouldn't be any problems in the program, but if they are, they get written out to a log file, a log part of the program. I'll show you where that is in a minute, but again you can just choose the level that you want to have that logging displayed at. Usually you want to set it to info, just so you can check whether there's anything in there or not. If I do need to give you some support, I may need you to get this set to a finer level so I can actually find out what's going on. There's a starting directory here, which tells me when the program starts, it will read the default set of properties, and from that default set of properties, the starting directory means that when I do file open image, it will look for images in that starting directory. And then you have the option to say whether you want to use that starting directory or not. Okay, so that's all of the features on the properties. Let me just pop into the help version, help menu here. Sorry. First of all, it's got a version stamp here. When the program launches in about a couple of weeks' time, that'll be a slightly higher version number than that. I do have, in gory detail, virtually every class that makes up the programs stamped with a major, minor version number. It's got an SVN check-in number, it's got a date, so I can tell exactly what your program's running, just in case there's any queries on that. And I said about the log thing here. So we do have a log message. It says cannot find license file. Talk about license files on another tutorial. And it says splash screen license problem, and that's all I've had. I've obviously still got a bit of debugging code in there which needs to come out. You can clear the log, and then only new things will get displayed on that. So that's given you a bit of a deep dive into the various internals of the program, or at least as much of them as are exposed through the user interface. I hope that's been of use to you. I hope you find the program useful and can start creating wonderful images and start to see the world as I see the world, through Strange Eyes. Thank you very much.